Hey, and welcome to Matt and Jess TV. I am Matt Roast here with Jessica Bun Bun. This is our interview with the vampire, season 2, episode 8 reaction and review.
Mhm.
Guys, this episode was so lit. Like, it was so unbelievably good. There are very few episodes at this point in my very cynical life where the closing minutes just roll and I'm just like, and I just want to get up out of my chair and start applauding like they're right in front of me. It is the True Detective Night Country finale from earlier this year. Like, these are my two favorite episodes of 2024 so far, and I already know all the keyboard typing is going on for people who hated the True Detective finale. I am on Night Country Island. I am in the Night Country with that. That's fine. I love that finale, but I also love this.
Yeah, and I don't think you're on an island with this finale. This finale was spectacular. It was so good. It was stunning. It was just gorgeous. It was sad. It was filled with love. It was filled with regret. It was filled with anger. I mean, revenge. This gave everything anyone could be looking for was in this finale. It was so good. I mean, we even have Lestat and the Bloodsuckers are going to be going on tour. Who's going to be going to see them when they stop in your town? I know I will be.
That is a part of what's really exciting at this very moment is that Interview with the Vampire season 3 is coming. I'm
Yeah.
very, very grateful that this is announced leading up to the finale. That way we don't have to worry about this. It could be very, very different than these first two seasons. Like, we'll
Hmm.
inevitably talk a little bit more about that as we get into the season 2 finale. But just for now, when it comes to Louis' story, what we got here, a little bit of Lestat, a lot of reminders of all these different characters we loved. I just think they paid off so many things so well. They even gave me a few minutes to laugh. They gave me the most incredible final line possible. I own the
Love
night.
that.
I have already said that at least like 5 times in conversations with Jess outside of this video.
He absolutely has.
I own the night. Okay.
Yeah, every time he hangs up the phone, I own the
Come on, guys. It is in between this and I Am the Night, aka Batman. There's just so much good stuff. Okay, now before we go any further here, be sure to hit that subscribe button because you know what? With Interview with the Vampire Season 3 coming, we're going to have
night.
a lot more coverage happening there. We don't want you guys to miss any of that. Also, House of the Dragon, which we are very actively in the midst of right now.
Also, you can follow us over on our Patreon. It's another way to be able to talk interview with the vampire with us.
Mhm.
We'll leave a link for you below. It's a great way to help support the channel as well. And thank you so much to everybody who has.
Thank you guys so much. And an especially big thank you once again. And we've done this before to everyone who did not spoil certain events from the
Yes.
books because yeah, I had found out about Claudia's death. Like that ended up being spoiled through. I think that was just a spoiler that was too hard to keep under wraps. But the Armand directing the play twist in this finale, I did
Yep.
not know that was coming. It blew me the you know what away.
Yeah, it completely blew me away. Like, I kind of had an idea about it, but I didn't really know everything about. But the way that it all came together, I mean, with Daniel also being part of this, I mean, Sam being part of the Talamasca, I mean, everything that it was just all of it coming together the way that it did. It was so shocking. And
Yeah.
it was like, a bomb that just kept exploding over and over. It's like, Sam is an informant, and here's the play, and Armand is directing it. He was directly involved. It was just like, I couldn't believe it.
I had no idea that that's where they were going with the Talamasca thing. Like, I wanted
No,
closure
I had
on
no
the
idea.
Talamasca in this finale. It was just, I thought it was just a setup for the spinoff that I would probably end up being a little bit disappointed about it in the finale. But then, lo and behold, to find out that the Talamasca was linked there from the start in order to have this big chunk of evidence that may or may not come out through the actual story that Louis and Armand are telling, that basically this entire past few decades of existence for Armand and Louis have been a lie. Like, that is devastating. But just to see Daniel just cut into Armand in that way, I have never been as proud of Daniel Malloy as I was in that moment. Yes, sure, you were still being spoon-fed information from Talamasca, and you had a lot of advantages in getting there, but you know what? You still held his feet to the fire, Daniel.
Okay, let's talk about the Talamasca for a second here and what their motivation was
Mhm.
in actually giving this screenplay with Armand's notes at this time. Because they're at the end of the interview. Louis like, that's the end. There's no more. Like, bye, thanks. We'll send you our thanks and our money and move on kind of thing. But it, for me, felt like the Talamasca needed more. If that's the end of the story, then it's like, okay, well, how do we study more vampires? How do
Mhm.
we get more out of this? Like, they're just going to go on and travel and live a happy life. Like, there's nothing really to mine from that anymore. How about we give Daniel this? And he'll bring this up and it will cause a huge problem. It'll split them up. Maybe it'll lead Louis to do something else, like back to Lestat, which it absolutely did. It's just, it made more story for the Talamasca to actually be able to mine more information from. They couldn't just have them go on and be happy. What are they studying? Oh, they're in Australia enjoying, some drinks out there. It's just like boring, right? So Talamasca, I think, just felt like they needed to have them do something else than just travel the world together.
I have a lot of questions about a number of different things in here, including we didn't really get to know Sam all that much through a lot of this, so we don't
No.
really understand fully. Did he offer up this information to the Talamasca? Did the Talamasca have something on him? Is this a function of just something he feels about Louis after all of this time? I mean, Louis also
Yeah.
did take out a lot of people in that theater. I don't know if there's going to be any emotional sympathy that Sam has for him, but all these sort of different layers in all this, we don't have the answers to all of it, and I don't know honestly if we ever will.
Yeah, okay, let's talk about Louis' revenge
Oh
tour
yeah.
because oh my goodness. I mean, one of the bigger questions that we had in the last episode is like who actually ends up saving him
Hmm.
and how does he get out of this coffin? We had talked about the idea, is it Lestat or is it Armand? And it was Armand who got him out of the coffin, but it was Lestat that actually saved him from death. He's the person that controlled the audience to have banishment, which was just going to end up in death anyways, but it at least stretched it out a little bit longer so that Louis could be saved. It was pretty much the same death that Louis gave to Lestat. I mean, Lestat was basically dead, but Louis was like, we'll ship him off to the dump where, he'll probably die, but probably not. He'll probably eat rats and he'll be okay, right? So this is where we are with this, that Armand actually ended up saving him and getting him out of there. But was it enough for their relationship? It was at that time.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's not anymore, but it was enough to have Louis on this revenge tour where he was just dealing with, like, he was saying, like, this madness that was just coming over him and just sweeping over him. This anger, all these feelings about Claudia and Lestat and Armand and what everybody did to him and the coven and how he was going to pay them back. And boy, did he pay them back.
This was just further evidence Louis does not have a great relationship with his fellow vampire, and there's probably a reason why a lot of his fellow vampires, even at the end of this episode, still don't have a great relationship with him. But he is full of rage. I think he's still full of questions, but I think the way in which he channels all of this is he's just thinking, I have been here for some time. You guys are punishing me in part for things that happened before I ever even knew you. You taking Claudia away from me. He doesn't obviously have the full picture, but man, the execution, the style, the delivery of all of this, it was really cool. There was a part of me that wished it went on for a little bit longer, but that's just because I was enjoying it. And I would have just wanted to see more of how Louis planned all this because it was just awesome to watch.
I really wanted more to happen to Santiago after what he said he was doing with Claudia's remains. I was so upset and I was getting more and more and more upset. And I understand that was the purpose.
Mhm.
He's trying to make Louis upset, but you were making me upset as well. Oh,
Yeah.
he's wearing her as like eye makeup, feeding her to the audience. I'm not even gonna repeat that last thing because shame on you. How dare you do that? It was so awful that by the time we got to his death, I was just like, man, I was even hoping for even more, Louis. Like you really could have done a number on him for the horrible things he not only did
Mhm.
to Claudia in life, but he did to her in death.
I think even just as I was watching this the first time, I was honestly kind of confused because we went through this entire sequence with the end of the theater and
Yep.
Armand and Louis basically saying that's it. And I was looking down at how much time was left in the episode, and I was just sitting back being like, okay, what else really is there to tell? And
So much.
yeah, as it turns out, so much, and that's where everything starts to unravel, and Armand's ultimate betrayal ends up being unveiled in this really, really awesome way, and we finally start to see this disintegration of this relationship that, I didn't know it was gonna end like this, but it did feel like we were on a downward spiral and that Armand, on some level, was controlling him, and I've never been on here and said that Louis was a perfect person or a perfect companion. He's a very flawed character, but I do still really, really like Louis a lot as a character, and I love watching his journey. And he has every right to be as full of rage as humanly possible in this moment that he has spent decades with this person who has lied to him.
I I think Armand got off easy. He should have been, I mean, just deaded at that point. Louis has wasted years, decades of his life with him. And I mean, even that scene with Lestat back in the past where Louis is like, yeah, I could kill you, but instead I'm going to kill your soul and I'm going to crush your heart. I'm going to spend my life with Armand and you can have any other person you want, any kind of replacement of me. It'll never be me because I'm going to be with him and you're going to know it. And it did destroy him. We saw Lestat later and he was like a shell of a man without Louis and knowing that he was with Armand. But, Louis was with Armand for love/spite. I
Yeah.
mean, this relationship we had seen little bits over the years. I mean, it was a difficult road.
Yeah, it was a really difficult road, and Armand claims that he cared for Louis and X, Y, and Z, where you'd sort of sit back and you'd think, okay, if you cared for Louis, you obviously wouldn't have done what you did. You're just taking advantage of the situation that's presented itself now. You clearly don't want to be alone, so you just want to find a way to make this work, and you're hoping, obviously, that the truth never comes out, and the truth does come out, and it gets pretty ugly for you pretty fast here, buddy.
Yeah, I mean, Louis throwing him out, I mean, is that enough? Like, I know they got into a fight and he's
Yeah.
like, I never want to see you again. Leave Daniel alone. And, when I come back, you better be gone. I was just like, I would have just like set him on fire at this point. Like, I know he has an eternity, but he's wasted 77
Yeah.
years of his life, like on this horrible lie where he was directly involved in killing his daughter. And it's so bad. I was like, Louis, you have so much more restraint than I would have had in that situation. However,
Yeah.
him leaving him alone with Daniel after all this and just being like, don't kill him. I'm going to tell you, you don't do this. If you do this, I'm going to be so upset. That's like Armand being like, well, you didn't say I couldn't turn him into a vampire. I was just like, oh my God, why would you have left him alone with him? Like, Armand doesn't have anything to lose anymore. He's lost you. You were the only thing he cared about. So if he doesn't have you, then what does he care what happens to Daniel?
That was the one thing in this episode that I was sort of sitting back and being like, okay, does this really make a lot of sense to leave Daniel with Armand? I mean, maybe you're thinking 90% chance nothing goes awry in all of this. Armand's obviously really upset. Maybe he's not going to want to hurt me further, but it's still a big risk to leave somebody who, all intents and purposes, has been pretty important to your life these past few decades in Daniel, and there is a chance that something could happen and all of it. And because Armand is a petty insert word here I can't say on YouTube, he decides to kind of find a way that, oh, after being so worried about turning someone, never doing it before, insecurities, blah, 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 blah. Oh, I'm gonna turn Daniel into a vampire.
And make him my fledgling.
You just suck, Armand. You can just go to Suck Island, be there by yourself, be sad. I'm so mad at Armand coming out of this episode for just how petty he is.
Yeah, he really is. Okay, let's talk about Daniel. Like, Daniel is now on a fame tour. You know, he's touring his book. Nobody believes that it's like a real account, that's an actual vampire. Nobody, yep. And of course, I mean,
Mhm.
I always kind of wondered that, like, how is Daniel actually going to get people to believe that this is a real account from a real vampire? No one's going to believe this. It doesn't matter that he has mountains of evidence. Like, it just isn't going to matter. It's like, oh, I sat down with a werewolf. Sure you did. You know, it's just not going to happen. But he still has sold millions of copies. He's
Yeah.
super famous and he's a vampire. So let's ask you guys this.
Yeah.
What happens with Daniel now that he doesn't age and he's super famous? He can't exactly just disappear. Where's he going to go to hide out? He's worldwide famous.
He's going to have to fake his own death at some point if he doesn't actually want the truth to get out. But then, conversely, he does want the truth to get out because he's doing all these interviews and he's sort of spilling the beans on all of it. I will say, I know it was a big tonal shift within the episode, but I loved that TV interview. I thought that was so unbelievably funny. He starts cursing on the air. There needs to be a separate category. I don't know if this is the Emmys, some other awards show, but best fake talk show segment within the middle of your scripted show, because the part of that was Rachel Ray on the curse finale. That was the only part of the curse finale I actually thought was good. This was so much even better than that. It was just 2 minutes. It was 2 minutes of perfection, but it does all raise that question of how does somebody who's really, really famous navigate all of this world? Because there are also plenty of people who, while they won't believe him, there's going to be plenty of people who do. And there's going to be plenty of people who probably show up to Daniel's door and are like, since you know vampires, can you introduce me to somebody so that I can be a vampire? Like, that stuff is going to happen. You're going to have all these Guillermos from What We Do in the Shadows coming out trying to turn at some point.
Yeah, I mean, Daniel does have one other path besides just, faking his own death and trying to move on. I mean, he still looks like what he looks like. Someone's going to recognize him. Is to just be like, yeah, I interviewed these vampires. I'm also a vampire. Here I am, sort of thing, and just put himself out there. Watch me not age, watch me drink this blood, whatever it is, that he's just going to be like the next big thing because he's just going to put himself out there. I mean, I've never made it a secret. Daniel is not my favorite character. I don't really like Daniel at all, especially after that bag story. Like, I'm just not into Daniel. So if I don't see Daniel again, I'm going to be okay with that. But if they're going to end up having more Daniel, I think Daniel's story could be really interesting if he just straight comes out as a vampire and is like, yeah, this is me. I'm here. This is what I'm doing. You can't unsee what I'm showing you. So, it's real proof. So let's go.
I would like more Daniel. I think I'm a bigger fan of Daniel as a character than you are.
I think I'm one of the only non-Daniel fans, and that's okay. I don't mind.
Listen, I'm one of the few True Detective Night Country fans. We all have our hills we're willing to die on here. No, I just think Daniel is set up to have a particularly interesting story. There's even more to do with his source material because, as it turns out, the Telemask apparently did have a hand in kind of making sure what gets in there, what doesn't get in there based on that conversation with Louis. You could have Interview with the Vampire, Daniel's version, coming out at some point later on down the road. I would be fine with that as well.
Let's talk about this ending with Louis and Lestat meeting back up again. That hug, I think, is a hug just felt throughout the whole fandom. Like, I felt that hug so deeply at the end of this conversation where they got so deep into how they're feeling about things, how sorry they are. Seeing Louis be like, listen, like, I thought of vampirism as sort of this curse, and I treated you that way because of it, but really it was a gift, and I never should have treated you that way, and I owe you an apology, and I owe you my thanks. And, even Lestat on the other side talking about Claudia and how she looked at him like a father on stage, looking for help, looking to her dad, and how it has haunted him. She said it would, and it has. He's living in squalor, just thinking about what he did, regretting what he's done, being haunted by Claudia, being haunted by Louis, being with Armand and not being with him. It was so tragic
Mhm.
to have it end in this just beautiful hug between two loves that just, by all different types of circumstance and things that they've done to each other and their own traumatic past that they've taken out on each other, that they have gotten to this point where there is forgiveness, there's real love, real forgiveness, and it's all just shared with this gorgeous hug.
It was so powerful, and Jacob and Sam were so good in this scene, just basically pouring their hearts out in various ways to each other. I mean, the moment we saw Louis back in New Orleans, like my heart was already starting to beat a little bit faster. I love how they sort of set up some of this at first with one of these ghost tours, and
Yeah.
you can go on plenty of these in New Orleans. Louis just there wearing a New Orleans Saints cap.
Laughing in the background.
Yeah, like that was fun, but it did going from that to then this intimate moment with Lestat, which was just so powerful and so needed. And this is kind of essential as we do start to look a little bit more towards season 3, which
Mhm.
is going to be very Lestat heavy. The Vampire Lestat is apparently one of the books that's going to serve as sort of the basis for all of it. And
His band is going on tour. Lestat and the
I
Bloodsuckers coming to a town near you.
I would pay to sing with Stat and the Bloodsuckers. I will
Me
make that
too.
very, very as long as they don't turn me into a vampire. I have made it very clear
Well,
I do not want to be a vampire. It
no, me
seems
neither.
very miserable in that world, but I think this was a very important step so that Lestat can get to a point where he's willing to be free and sort of live a part of his life again because he's not going to be stuck as much in this limbo. But the other question I do have coming out of all of this is as much as I love those last couple of minutes with Louis where he's challenging these other vampires who want to come for him,
Oh,
that whole speech, the I own the night, the needle drop, the music, all of that was just so wonderful. But I also am kind of sitting back and thinking, are we gonna see Louis again? Because this
oh, we better.
it kind of felt like an end to his story. It kind of felt like we got everything Louis felt like he needed to say.
No, I felt like this was the beginning of a new story. Watching Louis on that revenge tour with the Coven was so powerful and so exciting. And having it end where it's like, okay, this chapter of my life is done now. I've told that
Mhm.
story. I loved him sitting there at the end, being basically like hearing all these vampires talking their trash, and him just being like sending out a message, being like, everybody, hear me. This is where I live. Come on down, knock on the door. It's going to be safe for you to get in. I've got the windows all tinted, but it won't be safe for you once you're in here. Say it to my face.
Yeah.
Come on down. I was like, oh no, here we go. This could be a whole show of vampires hunting down Louis or Louis waiting for vampires to show up to have these conversations that are not going to end well for them.
Don't get me wrong. I
I
hope
just need more Louis. This can't be the end of him. I can't have it.
I hope you're right. I want a lot more Louis too. I mean, if you guys watch the channel a lot, Jess and I cover a lot of shows, and usually we have different favorite characters, aka Succession, where I was living in Connor Roy's corner for some unhinged amount of
Team
time.
Roman
Yeah, exactly that. But no,
or House of the Dragon, Team Green.
Team Black. So
But everybody's Team Louis over here.
yeah.
He is the absolute best character on this show. Jacob Anderson is a treasure. I absolutely have just like loved watching him. If this
Mhm.
is the end and we're not going to see Louis again, like it's going to be tough on me.
Yeah, we just both love this character so much, and I'm so attached to him and his journey. I do think that there's something more you can do with him. I think there's even something more you can do with Claudia. I mean, Sam's even spoken in interviews about sort of having maybe a spectral version of Claudia turn up here or there. I would be really, really excited for that. I
Mhm.
think the hardest part for all of us right now, especially coming out of this amazing finale, is number one, you have to find a way to match this level of quality, which is not
Yeah.
going to be easy.
No.
Number two, we're probably going to have to wait a really long time. I would love if it comes out late next year, but it just feels like we're waiting forever for a lot of these shows at this point.
Yeah, we are, but I feel like, this season has just been so good and so successful and everybody's talking about that. I think they're going to want to get another season out as quick as they can. I'm hoping they just don't rush it
Yeah.
because this season didn't feel rushed. It felt like it was woven together with love and time and
Yeah.
patience, and they need that. If this doesn't come out, the next one doesn't come out for a year and a half, 2 years, 5 years. I don't want it to be 5 years. But if it's as good as this season, I'm
Mhm.
willing to wait for good shows and for good product. I don't want somebody to just rush through it and then, I'm getting, bad seasons or,
No.
rushed endings.
Just tell all your friends to watch this show. It just still doesn't feel like it gets the attention, the love, the ratings it deserves. This is one of the best shows on television right now.
Easily.
Yeah, and I'll admit I was not that thrilled with the premiere of it, and I just think it's
I
gotten.
liked it.
I know you liked it a lot more than I
I
did.
love the
I
show.
love this show too, but just to me, it has taken a dramatic increase in quality week after week after week this season, leading up to these just final few episodes, which have been exceptional and worthy of just countless awards and all of that. But
Mhm.
thank you to you guys for being a part of this interview with the Vampire Journey. I think the fans of this show and of the Anne Rice universe, I can't say enough about you guys for allowing us to go on this and actually enjoy things as they come.
Yeah.
Thank you guys. Hit that subscribe button. Like we said at the start, we have House of Dragon going on right now.
Mhm.
Also, support us further by joining our Patreon. We have a link in the description below. We will be talking Interview with the Vampire more there. Thank you so much to our
Thank you.
patrons. We'll see you here next time.